What drives a UFC legend to fall so far that they become infamous for something darker than their fights? These 10 fighters had it all: fame, skill, respect, but you won't believe how far they've strayed and what they're known for today. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Number 1, War Machine. On August 8th, 2014, John War Machine Koppenhaver broke into the Las Vegas home of his ex-girlfriend, adult film actress Christy Mack, and found her with her new partner, Corey Thomas. What followed was a night of unimaginable violence. War Machine assaulted Thomas, beating and biting him before forcing him to leave. Then, over the course of several minutes, he savagely beat Mack, breaking her nose, fracturing her ribs, rupturing her liver, and leaving her nearly unrecognizable. He cut her hair with a dull knife, stabbed her in the head and hand, and allegedly told her, "I'm going to kill you." Mack managed to escape, running naked to a neighbor's house for help. The graphic photos she later posted of her injuries shocked the world. War Machine fled but was captured a week later in California. In 2017, he was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 36 years, a horrifying end to a life consumed by unchecked rage. Number 2, Lee Murray. On the night of February 21st, 2006, Lee Murray, once hailed as one of Britain's most dangerous rising MMA stars, stepped fully into infamy. Along with a crew of masked accomplices, Murray masterminded the Securitas Depot heist in Tunbridge, Kent, stealing over £53 million, more than $92 million in cash. Dressed as police officers, the gang kidnapped the depot manager and his family, using threats, fake arrest, and chilling psychological tactics to gain entry into the high-security building. Once inside, they tied up 14 employees and loaded cages of cash into a lorry, escaping into the night with what remains the largest cash robbery in UK history. For months, Murray evaded capture, slipping into Morocco using a fake passport under the name Lee Lamrani, but eventually authorities caught up with him outside a shopping mall in Rabat. With his dual citizenship and Morocco's refusal to extradite its nationals, he avoided being sent back to the UK, yet Moroccan courts convicted him for the crime. Today, Murray sits behind bars serving a 25-year sentence, while the MMA world still wonders what might have been if his hands had stayed in gloves instead of vaults. Number 3. Jason Mayhem Miller. Jason Mayhem Miller wasn't just a fighter, he was a walking spectacle. With outrageous entrances, wild energy, and a grin that said, "Rules don't apply to me," Miller carved out a space as one of MMA's most unforgettable showmen. His fights in the UFC, Pride, and Strikeforce often played second fiddle to his antics outside the cage, where fans couldn't get enough of his unpredictable charisma. MTV's Bully Beatdown turned him into a crossover star, perfectly tailored for someone who thrived on confrontation and absurdity. But beneath the laughs and theatrics, something was cracking, and when the cage lights dimmed, the cracks split wide open. In the years that followed his fighting career, Miller's life became a downward spiral broadcast in real time. Arrests stacked up, domestic violence, battery of police officers resisting arrest, vandalism, each headline more disturbing than the last, but none captured the chaos like his 2012 arrest, when police found him completely naked inside a vandalized California church, reportedly claiming he was just praying. That bizarre episode marked a turning point. But the troubles didn't stop. With dozens of legal run-ins and multiple stints in jail, it became painfully clear that Mayhem's loudest battles were no longer in the octagon. They were inside his own mind. His story remains a sobering reminder of how fame, trauma, and mental health can collide in brutal, public ways. Number 4. Rodney Glender. Rodney Glender may not have been a global MMA superstar, but to those who followed the sport's raw, unforgiving circuits in the early 2000s, he was a name that carried weight. A seasoned Dutch brawler with over 60 professional fights, Glender built his legacy on grit, fearlessness, and a willingness to square up with anyone, anywhere. From the rings of K1 to the blood-soaked mats of Pride and European fight cards, he was known not for flashy finishes, but for his sheer endurance and refusal to quit. His career was a grind, a testament to old-school toughness in a sport still defining its edges. That's why what came after hit so hard. Following his retirement, the name Rodney Glender resurfaced, not on a fight poster, but in a courtroom. In 2022, he was convicted of multiple charges, including sexual assault, rape, and physical abuse of a minor involving a girl under the age of 16. The crimes were monstrous and the trial chilling. Far from the gritty warrior fans remembered, Glender was exposed as something much darker. The verdict shocked the MMA world, not only for the severity of the crimes, but for the complete disintegration of a man once celebrated for his resilience. He was sentenced to over 6 years in prison. Unlike the spectacular crashes of more famous fighters, Glender's downfall was quieter, almost whispered, but no less horrifying. Sometimes the most disturbing stories are the ones no one saw coming. Number 5, Travis Fulton. Travis Fulton wasn't just prolific, he was legendary for it. Nicknamed the Iron Man, Fulton built a career that bordered on the unbelievable, logging over 300 professional MMA fights, many of them within days of each other. He fought across nearly every promotion imaginable, sometimes more than once a week, taking on veterans, newcomers, and anyone willing to step in. His reputation was forged on grit, volume, and a kind of blue-collar relentlessness that endeared him to hardcore fans. For years, he was seen as a symbol of the sport's rugged early era, an iron-willed journeyman who never said no to a fight. But that entire legacy came crashing down in February 2021, when Fulton was arrested in Iowa and charged with sexually exploiting a minor and possession of child pornography. Federal agents alleged that he had not only received explicit images of an underage girl, but also coerced and manipulated her into producing them. The documents detailed disturbing online communications and concrete evidence found on his devices. MMA fans were stunned. For decades, Fulton had been respected, even revered, for his toughness and longevity. Now, those same admirers were confronted with the sickening reality of who he might have been outside the cage. Just 5 months later, on July 10, 2021, Fulton was found hanging in his jail cell, dead by suicide. He had reportedly declined a plea deal that would have sentenced him to 17.5 years in federal prison. His sudden death closed the chapter on a life once defined by resilience and ultimately stained by unthinkable crimes. For the MMA world, it was a haunting reminder. Not every warrior's story ends in glory. Some end in ruin. Number 6, Thiago Silva. Thiago Silva came into the UFC as one of the most exciting light heavyweights of his era. Known for his explosive striking and relentless pressure, Silva quickly built a reputation as someone who always pushed the pace in high-stakes matchups. He shared the octagon with some of the division's most notable names, fighting contenders like Rashad Evans and Lyoto Machida. Whether he was trading punches or hunting for finishes, Silva's aggressive style made him a fan favorite. But while his performances were memorable, his life outside the cage proved far more turbulent. In 2014, Silva's career took a dramatic downturn after a disturbing domestic violence incident landed him in the headlines. He was accused of threatening his ex-wife with a gun during a confrontation at a Florida martial arts academy. The allegations painted a grim, dangerous side to the fighter that fans hadn't seen before. The MMA community reacted swiftly, with widespread criticism and the UFC cutting ties with him almost immediately. Although the charges were eventually dropped due to uncooperative witnesses, the damage to his reputation was irreversible. Fans and analysts alike questioned whether Silva's struggles outside the cage had overshadowed the fighter he once was. His story stands as a stark example of how personal demons can derail even the most promising athletic careers. Someone else, though, took things even darker. Do share your thoughts in the comment section below what you guys think about this. Number 7, Joe Son. Joe Son may not have been a UFC superstar, but he played a small role in shaping the sport's early days. His lone fight came at UFC 4, where he faced Keith Hackney in a match that's remembered more for its chaotic anything-goes nature than for any skill on display. Son suffered a quick and bruising loss, but his larger-than-life personality made him a memorable figure in those fledgling years of MMA. Later, fans recognized him for his role as the oddball henchman Random Task in the first Austin Powers movie. It was a quirky addition to his resume, one that made him stand out as more than just a former fighter. But what started as harmless fame would take a disturbing turn. In 2008, the public learned of Son's involvement in a brutal gang rape. He was convicted for his role in the crime, which occurred years earlier, but had come to light after advancements in DNA testing. The conviction led to a significant prison sentence, but the depths of Son's violent behavior didn't end there. While serving time, he murdered his cellmate, a horrific act that cemented his legacy not as an entertainer or fighter, but as someone capable of terrifying cruelty. Son's story remains one of MMA's darkest moments, exposing the monsters fame can sometimes conceal. Now, onto another case where inner struggles turn outward.
Number 8.
Ronnie Jason. Ronnie Jason stepped into the UFC as a fighter to watch. As the winner of The Ultimate Fighter Brazil's first season, he carried the hopes of Brazilian MMA fans on his shoulders. Known for his sharp striking and slick submission skills, Jason quickly became a fan favorite. His iconic entrance wearing a Jason Voorhees mask made him stand out even more, setting the stage for a career many thought would take him far. Early on, he seemed like he might live up to those expectations, racking up wins with an aggressive style that electrified audiences. But as the competition stiffened and the losses piled up, Jason faced a turning point that would derail everything. Retirement wasn't easy for him. Like many fighters, Jason struggled to find purpose once the adrenaline of competing faded. But for him, those struggles turned into anger. Multiple accusations of domestic violence began to surface, painting a troubling picture of his post-fight life. Fans who had once admired his gritty performances were left shocked by these accusations, which tarnished his reputation. These incidents showed how unprocessed emotions and the sudden loss of identity can lead fighters down dangerous paths. Jason's story reflects the quiet chaos that can overtake someone who's unable to transition out of the sport. And then, there's a figure whose destructive path didn't involve fighting at all.
Number 9. Abel.
Abel Trujillo entered the UFC with a reputation for explosive power and relentless aggression. A former collegiate wrestler turned knockout artist, he brought an intensity to the lightweight division that fans couldn't ignore. With thunderous striking and a fearless forward pressure, Trujillo racked up highlight reel finishes and seemed poised to become a serious contender. His fight with Jamie Varner, a wild brawl that earned Fight of the Night honors, solidified his image as an action fighter. But behind the Octagon persona, cracks were beginning to show. As his UFC run faded, Trujillo's name resurfaced not for his fights, but for deeply disturbing reasons. Legal troubles involving domestic violence and later charges related to child exploitation shocked fans and irreparably damaged his legacy. Once seen as a rising force in MMA, Trujillo became a cautionary tale. His fall from grace revealed how unchecked behavior outside the cage can overshadow everything achieved within it.
Number 10.
Joshua Fabia. Joshua Fabia's name became infamous in MMA circles, not because of any fights, but because of his controversial influence as Diego Sanchez's coach. Sanchez, a veteran of the sport loved for his toughness, saw his later career overshadowed by Fabia's bizarre methods and questionable guidance. From the moment Fabia stepped into Sanchez's training camp, red flags were raised. His self-created school of self-awareness promoted unconventional training routines that many in the fight community found absurd. Fabia introduced techniques he referred to as neurokinetic motion training, which included Sanchez being struck with padded sticks and hung upside down while being hit. Critics were quick to question these practices, arguing they were not only unscientific but potentially harmful. As these videos surfaced, concern for Sanchez's well-being grew. It wasn't just about unorthodox coaching. Fabia's role in Sanchez's life began to look more like manipulation than mentorship. The situation reached its peak during Sanchez's later UFC fights. His performances dwindled, and the UFC itself raised concerns about Fabia's influence, especially when Fabia stepped in to handle Sanchez's contractual negotiations, often clashing publicly with Dana White and the promotion. Eventually, Sanchez left the UFC, though not on good terms. After one final falling out, Sanchez separated from Fabia, admitting regret over their relationship. Fabia, however, continued defending his actions. The world of MMA is as unforgiving outside the cage as it is inside. These fighters lived at the peak of intensity, but leaving that life behind brought struggles many couldn't escape. Fame, power, and the adrenaline of competition often mask deeper issues, and when the crowd stops cheering, those cracks can become impossible to ignore. These stories aren't just shocking, they reveal how important support systems are for athletes transitioning from such a high-pressure career. They challenge us to consider what more could be done to prepare fighters for life after the spotlight fades. Maybe that's where the real fight begins. That's it for today. If you like this video, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel.